Arts and Culture Minister Natim Tetwa is leading a Youth Month dialogue on racism, social cohesion and nation building. The dialogue forms part of the 2018 Youth Month under the theme Live the Legacy towards a socio-economically empowered youth. The dialogue will, amongst others, provide a platform for young people from different sectors of society to pay tribute to the youth of 1976 and to converse and robustly interrogate issues that are dividing the country. Well, joining us here in studio to thrash out some of those issues and challenges facing youth in South Africa today, we've Bone Morgan, who's a Managing Director of Akuma Promotions, Tapelo Matseva, PAC Secretary for Youth Affairs, and Bavelile Hlongwa, who's the Deputy Chairperson of the National Youth Development Agency. A very good evening to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And happy pre-June 16 or June 16 Eve. What do we call it?
June 16 Eve?
Yes.
Yeah, actually.
Happy. Now, let me just start with you. You are actually somebody who's young, who's a business owner. What are some of the challenges that you think South Africa's youth face, especially in the business sector?
Funding. I think in terms of us securing funding, it's challenging. I mean, we're talking about youth empowerment, but I would say 60 or 80% of the youth are struggling, be it when it comes to just financing their business or having capital to start off, because there is a large number of unemployment in our society. So I've experienced an issue of funding because I run my business from my pocket. And I've just decided, you know what, since this funding business is not working out, I'd rather than approach clients and sell a service, and they give me a contract, I give them a service, I invoice, that's how I make a living. So in terms of being empowered by the government, departments that deal with finance, I haven't experienced that. I've tried. It has been hard. Therefore, I couldn't just sit back and say, well, I'll wait for the day they decide to, recognize my needs as youth in South Africa. So funding has been a challenge, a huge one for me.
Now, Bavelile, representing an organization that actually funds youth specifically, what can you say in response to that? Is it that the youth don't know where to go to get the funding? Is the paperwork too much? Is it that the red tape, the criteria to get the funds? What exactly, from your point of view, is the issue?
All right. First, thank you for having us here for the discussion. To directly respond to my point, some of the challenges with young people looking for assistance and funding, they vary. Depends what kind of funding you're looking for. Obviously, when you're looking for something like a grant, something that you will not owe anyone for, you will approach us as the NYDA. You will also approach small businesses. They do have a grant funding arrangement. There is some grant funding arrangement as well that is sitting with DTI. But if you're looking for a loan kind of a funding, you will then approach about IDC, CIFA, and private banks. And the issue around the funding of those that gives loans particularly is that the criteria is not responsive to young people. It is more about people who had businesses, who have, run successful businesses. They're not interested in ideas that needs, to be brought to the table, to be funded, to be assisted to take off. But there's also a challenge around when you go back to the grants space, because I think Moipon was saying she's never gotten any form of assistance, and I think she would have thought, look, someone must be willing to give me a grant. So the issue with the grants institution like ourselves is that you find that the NYDA is there, 15 offices across the country. Moipone probably is unable to reach the nearest office. Probably the nearest office is far. But on top of that, it's issues of resources. How much is there and is available for that particular grant money, and how many people can benefit per year? And those are some of the challenges. NYDA is currently sitting at 400 million. There's about 20 million young people. So it means we spend about 20 rands per young person for development. And it means then there's a challenge, because when you speak about grant funding, you will have 50 per province, and Moipone will have probably fell in the group that, is outside that 50, or probably when she applied, because it's on first time
First come, first serve basis.
Basis. So it will be an issue of probably she applied, and when she applied, already you've run out of the money for that year, and you can't continuously wait. But I think what we must commend is that she's one of the most driven young people, and there's quite a number of these young people out there who will say, look, I'm not gonna wait until it's my turn. I'm just going to make something happen like today.
Being proactive somewhat.
Being proactive.
So Tapelo, just talk to us about some of the programs that have taken place for young people this year. Tomorrow is June 16. What do you guys have in store for young people?
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Let me start by indeed saluting the legendary and iconic revolutionary martyrs who demonstrated unwavering commitment and indeed the loyalty to the cause of liberation struggle. We salute them. We are where we are because of them. They have made us proud. The state of affairs in the country, insofar as the aspirations and interest of the young people is concerned, it is really, really, really worrying us as the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. We are very much worried because there is a clear abdication, if not marginalization, of the interest of the young people. The young people of our country they are disgruntled and disillusioned with their own government, precisely because it's more existing on rhetoric. It's more theoretical than being hands-on. There are quite a number of young people who have submitted their cooperatives, their companies, and they come to us and say, no, we are not getting help, being it from NYDA, being it from, because they have now resorted to approach states, and that is what we call departments, on their own. Whereas the role and responsibility and the mandate, of course, of NYDA is to mainstream and indeed advocate on behalf of the young people of this country. Of course, with quite a range of needs that which the young people of this country wish to have. The responsibility, indeed, in this instance lies with NYDA and with government at large, but we don't see them forthcoming, and this is a cause for concern to us as the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania.
Now, you've mentioned, I think Bavelile also mentioned that as the NYDA, they also have some constraints that they're facing. 20 rands per young person isn't much for anyone to do anything with. With the PAC, are there also initiatives that you are undertaking to help young people become more proactive, like Mipone is, instead of waiting for the NYDA and for government or DTI or the banks, if it be, are there projects that you have in place to help young people become more proactive, become entrepreneurs, become their own bosses?
Well, indeed, as PAC, we have been involved in quite a number of programs, amongst others is farming. We are very much, indeed, I will say, comfortable in being in charge of our affairs. And this is ideologically inclined standpoint. This ideologically inclined standpoint, young people are involved in farming. There are quite a number of cooperatives that which young people have, and pieces of land allocated, of course, to young people in the rural areas, in the urban areas. But what remains a bottleneck and frustration is access to resources, because you will indeed agree with me that the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania is not the ruling party, it's not in charge of taxpayers' money. It becomes, therefore, extremely frustrating. Young people who are engineers, who desire, of course, to have their own companies, fishing designers who desire to have their own, of course, companies too, they can't really move. And we are trying of our best. We've motivated these young people to say we have been fighting for, that is self-determination and self-reliance. We are not proud as and when we continue to be wearing labels such as Daniel Hector, labels such as Katikayega, so forth and so forth. We want to be seen in the streets wearing the local brand, the brand that seeks to epitomize and indeed market our forefathers. That is exactly what we have been fighting for. And that is in line with our ideology as the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. We don't rely on other people, but we are saying, NYDA, please, come on board with taxpayers' money and assist the young people of this country. So
let me give you a right of reply. You know, NYDA, you are here. Can you come on board? Can you help beyond what you're currently doing?
I think let's start at the fact that obviously you're dealing with quite a big chunk of young people. And you will know that South Africa has a youth bulge. So with the minimal resources that we've had, in the past 5 years, we've funded about 4,044 youth entities, whether enterprises or individually owned or cooperatives. And you look, it's not a lot of money that we've been having. But what we've also done now with this particular board is to say, where else can we get money? Because the discussion with getting government to give us more budget is just not taking off. You know, there's resolutions, we'll fund more, we see the work, we are happy, and so forth. But when that needs to be implemented, Treasury will be telling you, no, but there's fiscal pressure and all that. So we've then said, what can we do? In the what can we do, one of the things that we are making is a call to private sector to say, look, already they by law are supposed to put aside some money for corporate social investments. And most of those monies are spent on funding, marathons, painting crashes here and there. But there are priorities that government has put forward. And he said young people are unemployed in general. And we know that means most of those people who are unemployed, it's young people. And then he said priority number 2 is youth development. And these two things have not been funded. And what we're saying is that private sector, from that CSI, don't budget new money. From that CSI, just 50%. It can go through the Treasury, and we can account for it as we are very able to account for money as the NYDA. We're currently sitting with 3 consecutive clean audits, and we're waiting for the 4th one as Auditor General concludes the work that they are doing in terms of auditing different state entities and departments. So, but we are also, whilst we're making that call, we are also practically approaching individual private companies to say, this is what we bringing on the table. These are young people, because at the end of the day, to deal with the unemployment, you need to do what exactly Umaipone is doing. Get some of the young people to be entrepreneurs, so that they will be able to create jobs. Because the current businesses, the civic, private, public, civic organizations, they are unable to respond to the 15 million unemployed people in the country. You need then to be creative and think outside of what is available to you. And it means young people must start going to space of manufacturing. They must start going to the industrialization at large. They need to go to agriculture. They need to be able to do agri-processing. So all that stuff needs you to have land, it needs you to have resources. And those resources we don't have now, however, private sector must come to the party.
Now, having been successful, because I mean, you actually are succeeding, even though maybe not where you want to be.
Yeah,
you still have time
I'm heading there.
You still have time to get there, you are heading there. Do you think that because you've experienced the challenges you went through to get to where you are you in a position where you are willing to mentor other entrepreneurs who aspire to be like you? Do you have that as part of your vision?
I'm already doing that, actually. I've got people under me. I've got mentees, basically, that I'm developing. I also offer training for unemployed people. It's funded by a private company. I can't mention the name. So that is a way of empowering unemployed people for them to, to develop. It's skills development, actually, yes. and personal development for them to be able to stand up and do something for themselves. Because we have tried to, source funding here and there. Jobs are scarce, and you know that, so it's a challenge. Yes. I've got quite, excuse me, a great feedback from the people that I've mentored, and I still continue to do that because that is part of me, basically. Yes. So as an entrepreneur, I believe in giving back and transferring a skill to the next person, particularly women. those are the ones that I work with most of the time because we want to make a difference. There has been, a saying of youth development and transformation, but we haven't realized that as yet. So it's something that has been in the pipeline for quite some time. And I wish if the government and the private sector, as Bavelile mentioned, that they need to come to play. When they come to part, people need to now be prioritized. Even because earlier on she mentioned that their budget is limited to only a certain number. So normally the people that come after that, they then fall on the negative side. I wish that they could actually take the ones that are, on the negative side to plan for them, assist them in the following year, not to wait for new applications per se, but to say that, okay, we've received your application, let's give you a timeline. When is it that we can be able to respond to your request? Rather than just abandoning the person or rejecting.
Come back next year, same time, same place,
and
reapply.
So let it be something that you don't have to go through the same process, but they capture your application on the system and they respond accordingly. So I think that would assist in terms of their approach as the Youth Development Agency. So it would also help the youth to have some level of confidence and faith to say that we are indeed heading somewhere. So it shouldn't be that I've tried, so therefore the budget is out, therefore I need to go knock somewhere else. Let the youth get assistance where they knock. If you won't be able to give them 1 million that they need, at least meet them halfway. So let there be something that you guys empower the youth with for them not to end up on the streets. So not everyone is got an entrepreneurial skill. Some people still need to be developed for them to get to that point. However, I think that, people that are able to assist in terms of funding for people to, develop themselves, they must actually come to play.
And I like the idea of actually being part of the solution, which is what you're doing. Just coming back to you, Thapelo, in terms of nation building, do you think that the youth of 2018 or the 21st century are taking the responsibility of nation building into their hands as much as the youth of 1976 were radical in fighting for what they believed in?
Well, thanks. You see, what needs to be alluded to and indeed acknowledged is the fact that the youth of 1976 epitomized and emulated the legend, the revolutionary legend and political icons who participated vocally and actively in the affairs of their country. The likes of Sobukwe, the likes of Hector Peterson, and the likes of Jeff Masemola, the likes of John Yatipukela. The youth of 1976 epitomize those leaders who nurtured, who groomed them, but over and above, who conscientized them that this country belongs to them. They are the rightful owners of this land, and they must really stand up and be in charge of their own affairs without necessarily allowing the external forces to tell them what to do, what not to do in the country of their own. And that particular posture, after 1994, it changed. We became very much liberal, if not defocused, in focusing on ourselves as individuals and abdicating our responsibility, in particular, of course, government, in providing leadership insofar as the interests and aspirations of the young people are concerned. We are of the view that what needs to be done in this country is for the government to create a youth ministry, a ministry that will cater for the needs and interests of the young people. The NYDA is here, but everybody, you don't need a rock scientist to acknowledge the fact that it's difficult to access NYDA. You have our colleague in the studio here who says clearly indicating the fact that the resources are not accessible. let alone information. You have young people in the rural areas, in the urban areas, who doesn't have first access to information. Secondly, who are not really helped in any way, insofar as their dreams are concerned. We urge the government to create a youth ministry, a department that will cater for the interest of the young people, because that department will therefore be given a budget, of course, to address the interest of the young people and to look after the dreams and indeed the aspirations of our young people, precisely because this is a strategic segment in the society. These are the future leaders.
Sorry to just cut in there. We actually are running out of time. I just want to give Bavalile just a chance to give a final comment. He's mentioned that they suggest that the government should have a youth ministry that focuses specifically on young people's problems. As a representative of the NYDA, what do you think is the way forward?
Look, at the end of the day, youth development work needs to be done. And the NYDA Act gives us a responsibility to mainstream youth development. Currently, you have 3 sectors that the Act mentions. It's the public sector, which is government as an implementing agent. It's private sector, it's civic organizations. What you find that has been happening is that obviously NYDA was formed in 2008 by Act of Parliament, first brought 2009. That was after the NYC Umsobov. Now, you've had some teething problems, and then there was issues of trying to grapple with the internal governance and clean governance and all that. But we currently at the space where now we're saying, everyone play your role. If government will have a youth ministry, and that means it coordinates all the work that needs to be done in government, that will work for us, because currently we feel government departments sit the entire year, and then come June, you know, May is 1 month that you don't want to look at your emails because everyone is having a summit.
I'm sorry, we actually are out of time. I do apologize.
I don't like the summits. Can I just finish the line? The summits are not youth development. They are continuous planning that never gets implemented. And we are saying to
mostly
them,
talk, but no action. So action needs to be done by government and needs to be done now. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are out of time. That was a discussion on youth development in the country by Mwiponi Morgan, Managing Director of Akuma Promotions, Tapelo Matseba, PSC Secretary for Youth Affairs, as well as Bavalile Hlongwa, Deputy Chairperson of the NYDA. Time now for a short break, but do stay tuned for more news and updates.